Woohoo! It is time for a new treat on our podcast. This is happening for the second time this week. This is Betsy's idea of getting more of the comments that come into Ron Spomer Outdoors website covered for you guys. We just don't have enough time on our other podcasts when we're covering our patrons and the YouTube. So here we go. We are going to answer you. All of you have written so many great questions and comments. We're going to start tackling those on these podcasts. Let's just jump right in there, and pretty much in the middle of the country. We're going to go to Indiana, where Jimmy has something to ask me. Looks like it's about the 400 Legend cartridge. I'm looking for recommendations for a bullet for the 400 Legend. I've been hunting central and southern Indiana since the late 80s with my Remington 1100 LT20 with a Hastings rifled slug barrel. That is a shotgun slug. Been shooting the Lightfield hybrid slugs with great success. But when I got home from my last deployment, I found that Lightfield no longer makes hunting ammunition. I didn't know that. I have tried many other brands, but found that I couldn't get the accuracy I'm looking for from my gun. So I decided, due to the new rule changes in Indiana, I would jump on the straight-walled cartridge bandwagon. In 2024, I purchased a Ruger American Gen 2 Predator in 400 Legend. I have not yet reloaded ammunition. However, my friend has a reloader. I'm considering using it. I would appreciate recommendations for bullets. I have a desire to shoot all copper bullets. I have seen Bear Creek Ballistics and Hammer, which both interest me. I have also seen where some are using muzzleloader bullets and wondering if this practice is safe. Thanks for your time and recommendations, Jimmy. Well, Jimmy, you're sure welcome. Sounds like I owe you a thanks for your service here if you're talking about your last deployment. Now, I think you've got yourself a great choice in a straight wall cartridge. That 400 Legend kind of up the ante. It gives about 25% better performance downrange, especially in energy, over the 350 Legend, which is pretty well proven a great whitetail round. I think in terms of 30-30 Winchester, the old traditional, it's got somewhere around 20% more performance and energy downrange on that one. So you got a good one here. Now, as far as loading bullets, yeah, I can get behind you on that copper bullet. I just love copper bullets. They're so darned effective. Now, you do want to be concerned about their opening potential. You know, if you get too hard of a bullet, yeah, you can make some different alloys with copper. And I don't know of any brands that say which kind of copper alloy they're using, but I guess there are many, many types. I know Hammer Bullets was fooling around for quite a while until they found just the right combination that spelled perfection for their bullets, and they're going with that. Once again, secret formula. They're not telling me what it is, but just make sure that they're opening those bullets, getting good expansion out there at your distance. So I'd say about 200 yards. Now, 400 Legend, if you shoot that thing and zero it to be about 2 inches high at 150 yards or so, you should probably max out your trajectory about 3 inches high at around 150 yards or so. And then at 200, you're going to probably be 4 to 5 inches low. So you're pretty much looking at a dead-on hold out to 200 yards. And boy, for whitetail, in a place like Indiana, that's pretty much doing everything you need it to do. So which bullets are going to have enough velocity to expand at that 200-yard range? That's what you want to look for. So talk to the manufacturers or look on their websites. A lot of them these days will put on the website, this bullet will open reliably, sufficiently at an impact velocity of so many 100 feet per second, 1,000 feet per second. It's usually around 2,000 feet per second. Some of them claim they'll go as low as 1,400 feet per second. Others, 2,200. So that's what you want to look for, but I'm pretty sure you're going to find some great coppers. That'll do the job for you. I'm not familiar with Bear Creek Ballistics. I am certainly with Hammer. I'm getting behind those. A lot of experience also with Barnes. You might want to look there. Cutting Edge has always impressed me. Maker is another one that's up and coming and doing a pretty good job. They really open wide. You might want to look into those. They make a lot of their bullets for subsonic, so they're engineering those to open at some pretty low velocities. And I'm sure there are many more out there. I'm just not coming up with them all now. So I think you're going to find out that they'll work pretty well for you. You'll be able to get a little more velocity out of those because, of course, copper for its length is lighter than lead, so you'll be able to drive it a little faster with the same loads of powder. So I think you're going to do really well with those. Good luck on that one. And if you have some good success, don't hesitate to write back and share that with us. Now let's swing over to Georgia, where Sylvester...
Before we go to Georgia, can we mention our hangout?
You want to mention our hangout?
Yeah.
Come to the hangout. This is not a coffee club. It's not a bar. It's just me flapping my lips and you joining me. Now, Betsy, this is for patrons, right?
Correct. This will be only on Patreon, not on Facebook, not on any other of our social media platforms, because they can be... Other people can get on there and say they're Ron Spomer, but not on Patreon.
Okay, so this is going to be for patrons. If you want to participate, obviously you have to be a patron. Not only that, but you have to be at the third level, getting up there to the classy seats. It's like flying business class. Now, honey, I don't fully understand this. Are these guys going to then be able? Are we going to hear them? Are we going to see them on this meeting?
Yes, it'd be on Google Meet, I believe.
Something like Google Meet
is the platform we're going to use right now.
Okay, and then they're going to show up, or is it just going to be their voices?
No, it can be their voices. That's up to them. They can
so they can decide to click on us, use their camera, and we can see them, and that'll be fun. It's fun to watch guys, in their pajamas or whatever they're doing.
Hopefully not.
So this will be, the first one is going to be April 24th. Don't jump in yet, Betsy. Let me see if Grandpa Ron can remember this stuff. April 24th, 2025. And it's in the Mountain Time Zone. This will be 7 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. So factor that in depending on where you are. It kind of puts it right in the middle, so people will be home from work and they won't be necessarily gone to bed yet, but maybe getting ready, which is the pajama reference. At any rate, the first 100 people who sign up on that one, I guess, will get in. I don't know how it's all going to work, guys. Stay tuned. We'll certainly let you know when you're a patron. Then we're going to give you guys all the directions. But the really exciting thing is we're going to give something away. On this show, we're going to give away one of these really cool knives from Knives of Alaska. It's the Alpha Wolf, and boy, both the engineers and designers at Alaska Knives and I really like this. Just about the right size for a whitetail, black bear, pronghorn, mule deer knife. Not too big and long of a blade, pretty light. It's got the construction we want in a good solid hunting knife. Plenty thick enough across the back, and it's a full tang. It's not going to get the handle broken off or anything like that. It's just close to pretty ideal. I got another knife with my name on it that I like really well too, but I got to admit, this would have been a good one to stick my name on as well. But if you want to win one of these, we're going to give one away in that show, as well as one of my 7mm books and the predator hunting book. So hope to see some of you guys there. All right. Anything else I need to cover here, dear?
No.
Now we can go to Georgia? The devil went down to Georgia where he met Sylvester, who said, I am moving from 180 grain bullets to 150 grain in my 30-06 because of the 1 in 10 twist rate. And I would like to know what is the biggest animal I could take with 150 grain realistically, and how far would be too far for large game for 150 grain. Well, I'm happy to do that, Sylvester, but first of all, I think I want to straighten you out on this twist rate business. You don't need to go to a 150 grain bullet in your 30-06 because it's 1 in 10 twist. That rifle was set up to stabilize a 220 grain round nose bullet back in the day, and then they went down gradually to 150. Well, actually, they in the military jumped right down to 150. Then they climbed back up to 175. And then they kind of bounce all over. The point is, a 1 in 10 twist in a 30-06 enables you to stabilize and accurately shoot bullets from 100 grains all the way up to 220. And some guys report they can even get pretty good performance or accuracy out of a 230 grain. So the twist rate is not having anything to do with whether you pick a 150 or a 180. Now, the 150 will handle elk and moose easily if it's the right bullet and you put it in the right place. So you're going to want to use a harder bullet with controlled expansion. You don't want a traditional soft 150 grain, soft point type bullet that could come apart. That's where the lead can sometimes break away from the jacket and pieces of the lead can break up, and then you end up with less penetration. And it's okay on whitetail and smaller game like that. But on something like an elk or a moose, you might get in trouble with that bullet not penetrating enough to reach all the vitals you want to reach. And that's a good reason to go to a heavier bullet. Generally, the heavier bullet will penetrate better and retain more mass. But you won't have any trouble with precision and accuracy with that twist rate. So you're pretty well covered there. Now, let's see. What's the biggest animal? How far? Oh, gosh, you could easily go out to 400 yards and drop them. Of course, I always recommend getting as close as you can, no matter what. But plenty of us out here in the West know that there come these opportunities across canyons and whatnot where your only chance is a 400-yard shot or so. And people who really practice and get good can handle a 500-yard shot. But that's starting to get out in that realm of specialty. So good luck with that, Sylvester. Let's see here. Arizona, Chris, regarding the 44 Magnum for big bears for buffalo boar, makes a hardcast 340 grain Underwood, and Grizzly also make bullets over 300 grains. You can even buy monometal bullets if you wish. Why anyone would use a 240 grain hollow point for grizzlies or brown bear is beyond me. I have a lever action with a 24-inch barrel. Combine that with the hardcast 300 grain, and I'll feel comfortable against anything in North America. Yeah, that sounds like pretty reasonable observation there, Chris. And the reason that some people would consider the 240 grain is they just haven't had enough experience yet. And the kind of the standard for big bears is that you want the heaviest 4 caliber bullet, and you want it hard. Hollow points sometimes just open up too much too soon and you don't get the penetration. Just right back to what I was talking about with that 30-06. So yeah, you're on it there. Buffalo boar makes some real good hardcast heavy bullets. Underwood does much the same. And then the mono metal bullets, there you're referencing the all copper. And the hollow points on a copper are different from the hollow points in a lead core bullet, because it'll still retain 90 to 100% of its mass. Generally, the petals will peel back but not break off. I have had as many as 2 break off on one bullet when I hit a major bone. If you just slide along the edge there, that'll be enough to break the petals off. But I still got deep, deep penetration and just recover the bullet on the back side right against the hide. Yep, you're not barking up the wrong tree there, Chris. Thanks for that. All right, how about Alex in Manitoba, it looks like. Say, Ron, how does magnification work with distance in a rifle scope? Logic says greater distance equals greater magnification. Not so, according to ballistic charts. Are the two separate tools? Boy, I'm not quite sure what you're driving at here, Alex, but scope and long-range magnification and stuff have nothing to do with the ballistic performance of your bullet. All the scope is for is putting the aim on the target. I always say it's a glorified front sight. If you have an open sight rifle with a big post on the front, like in the old days, you line that up with your target, and you were good to 100 yards, or really sharp-eyed guys could probably go to 300 or so. But if you really want a precision targeting with a crosshair like that on a reticle, and you magnify it a little bit, man, it just makes it a lot easier to aim. But it doesn't matter what the ballistics of the bullet is so long as you have your rifle zeroed for that. So put a variable scope on your rifle. Let's say you've got a 30-06, pretty common. You can zero that thing to be about 2.5 to 3 inches high at 100 yards, and then it would probably be 3 to 3.5 inches high at 150 to 180 yards, and then it slowly starts dropping in and dead on at about 250 yards, and maybe 3 to 4 or 5 inches low, depending on the bullet and the weight and all that, and its drag, at 300 yards. So all you have to do is use that scope's crosshair right on the center of the chest of your moose, elk, or deer, and launch it, and you're going to land somewhere in the vital zones on there. It doesn't matter if you turn that power from 3x up to 9x or 12x or 25x. It's still going to the same place. if you have a good quality scope. That doesn't change when you adjust your magnification. But no, that just doesn't have anything to do with the ballistic charts. Ballistics tell you how your bullet's going to drop and deflect in the wind. So I hope that made sense to you. If not, write me back and we'll try again. Okay, Chris down in Australia. Now, see, we're getting around the world again, guys. I really enjoy this. We hear from all over the States and Canada, and now we're down to Australia. Wouldn't surprise me if we get a New Zealand in here. What's going on down there in Australia, Chris? Here in Australia, in New South Wales in particular, our public land hunting is done on what's called a Game R license. The reason I mention this is because it also shared with the Hunter Leap program, which is apparently the same course for some USA states for their hunting accreditation. So it's got me dreaming of a whitetail mule deer hunt in the States on your public land. And I'm finding it a bit confusing. Over here, we just let forestries now know where we will be, and away we go. No bag limit, no seasons. Wow. So I was hoping you might be able to simplify the public land hunting system in the States. Oh boy. This is going to be a challenge. Oh, okay. He's got some more here, but let's cover this before I read the rest of his letter. I'm sorry, Chris, but we have got a mess over here. Each state is in control or in charge of its wildlife, except for migratory birds. That's a federal system there. The states work with the feds on establishing that, but because ducks and geese fly from the Arctic all the way down to sometimes into South America, we have to cooperate with Canada and Mexico in establishing season dates and bag limits and all that to protect the populations. But the deer and the elk and all the rest of it, they're pretty much considered local animals. So each state gets to set up its dates and seasons and the rifles you can use and all sorts of crazy things. And they're wildly different sometimes. So the general process is there are so many hunters now who want to hunt fewer and fewer animals, especially in the West, where the population is just going through the roof of humans, but not elk and deer and pronghorns and all the rest of it. We've got a great diversity of wildlife out here, but we're just usurping all of their habitat. We're taking away their winter grounds especially, and that makes it extremely hard on them. So we have to limit the tags. We can only give out so many. And by limit, I mean here in Idaho, I am eligible for one moose tag in my entire life. Same with Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep, mountain goats. I think that's about it for the once-in-a-lifers. Well, then we'll have elk season. Yeah, you've got all kinds of confusing regulations. You can apply for a cow tag in this unit, or you can apply for a spike tag in that unit, or a branch antler bull tag in some other unit, but only that unit. And if you don't draw, you're out of luck. You don't get to go at all. There are a few units where you can just go, but you're limited to, say, a spike only, or a cow only, or a depredation hunt, and on and on and on. They sort of micromanage, and it sounds horrendous. And in practice, for somebody trying to get a license and a tag, it is horrendous in my experience. But it does protect the resource and maximizes the opportunity for somebody to go. You can't just give it a blanket, well, okay, everybody buy a tag and we'll see how many get shot, and then next year we'll cut it in half or whatever. They really keep tight tags on this stuff. So some other states, a little more generous than that, but that's generally how it works. So you have to decide, what do I want to hunt? And then read all the regulations and apply for that license for a certain part of the state or however they have it set up. If you draw, they will say, hey, congratulations, you lucky duck, you got one. Nobody else did. You got the only tag for this unit for this year. Now have fun. And then you go. But you have to obviously have a map and know where you can be and where you can't be and all the rest of it. So yeah, it is a heck of a lot more confusing than your go, no bag limit, no seasons. Boy, that's wonderful. I'm coming to visit. So I hope that helped you out there. The only good news I can give you is that you can go on each individual state's website for Fish and Game. Colorado Division of Wildlife, Montana Game and Fish, or Fish and Game, whatever they call them. Words like that will get you to there, and that's where the information will be. Some of them have some pretty good websites that will tell you everything you need to know in a pretty reasonable fashion. Other ones are so complicated, I can't even figure them out. So, and that's probably by design so that fewer people bother to apply for the tags. They just give it up.
The other thing is Tate and Process-Based Hunter is going to have a tag system coming soon.
Yeah, we will announce that when it's available, but that young guy that works with me on some videos and stuff, more and more, because he's pretty good, he knows his stuff, and he's a lot younger than I am, and he's out in the field guiding everything else. He's been talking to us about he and his partners are setting up a system that will help you get your tags. So you tell them where you want to go and what you want to hunt for, and they'll do all this nasty stuff and figure it out for you. You'll probably have to pay him, I don't know, $100, $200 or whatever. But boy, in my experience, when I'm trying to apply for one of these tags, I get $200 worth of blood comes out of my forehead trying to figure this stuff out.
You do not want to be in the same room.
You don't even want to be in the same house when I am. Maybe not even the same county. All right. Sorry for the bad news, Chris, but we certainly welcome you over here if you can draw your tag. We're sort of an equal opportunity employer once you draw that tag. I knew one young woman came to the state on a non-resident tag one time and didn't know what she was doing, where she was going, and she looked at a map and said, oh, there's public land there, and she drives out there, and the biggest bull killed in the county that year walks right in front of her, and she shoots it. And so, what was so hard about that? Oh, man. All right, let's go back to Canada, Ontario. Roy, hey Ron, thanks for all the hard work you do to deliver exceptional content. You hear that, naysayers? And congratulations on your recent Gundy Award. Well, thank you, Roy. Appreciate that. That was a treat to get that. A little award for folks who are doing, I think, television programs and mostly YouTube.
No, that dates you. YouTube.
Just YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, so guys who do YouTube stuff like this, Backfire and Hootie Hoo and that kind of stuff, they have a little contest where the fans vote for the winner. So it's like the People's Choice Award for guns and hunting and shooting and outdoor stuff. And Grandpa Ron won the sympathy vote this year and got the award, so appreciate it. Let's continue with Roy. He says, hey, I love the banter between you and Betsy. Move her to the front of the camera and hire a videographer. All right, Betsy, you're up.
No, I'm not coming up. Nope.
See what I'm up against? Now, I will say this. I think I'm going to get her in front of the camera because we got a couple of Q-Fix rifles, and she challenged me to a shoot-off. She's going to be shooting a 6.5 Creedmoor, and I'll probably have to shoot my 8.6 Blackout. So she'll probably say, well, we're shooting at 200 yards, which will give me a real handicap.
Well, I thought we'd shoot the same rifle to make it fair.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, challenge is on, guys.
Yeah, but I just had shoulder surgery, so it'll be a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be a while till she can shoot again because she had major surgery on her shoulder. They went in and fixed every ligament and muscle and bone in that part of her body. It was pretty serious stuff. So, okay. Look forward to that.
2 months.
2 months? You think you're going to be able to do that? All right. Now, let me see. Where am I? Okay. Roy continues. Recently, you started a bit of firestorm with your comments about the Obsolete 30-06. Oh, boy, did I ever. I've gotten called worse names on that than any other 10 videos I think I've ever done. But let's see what Roy says. But your material was genius. Ha! So there. But it got me thinking about cartridges in America that are indeed obsolete. I have a Model 14 Remington in 25 Remington. That's a rare one. My rifle was made in 1913 and has been passed down through the family. That's cool. The little rifle has taken an awful lot of deer over the years, but not recent years because commercial loadings stopped being produced in 1948. Wow, I didn't know it was that long. I've considered getting into hand loading just so I could continue to have a supply of this obsolete loading. It would be really interesting if you had information on North American cartridges that were once popular but now truly are obsolete. Best regards, thanks for you and your channel, Roy. Yeah, Roy, you should get into hand loading that. That's a great little round. Not quite as fast as the 253,000 Savage, but it's a great little deer option. And pretty simple. You just get the dies and off you go. The bullets are the same as on all the other 25s. As far as your idea on obsolete cartridges, that is not a bad idea. Betsy, keep this in mind. What we would do is I'd compile a list of some of the more once popular rounds, and then they faded away, and we'll talk about when they came out, all the things we talk about with modern cartridges.
Is this a book?
Is it a book? Oh, my gosh. Right away, she goes to more work for me.
Or just a video?
This is going to be a video. Yeah. If we get a huge demand and sell about 4,000 pre-orders, we'll do a book. Okay. Well, thanks for that, Roy. Maybe we might get around to it. There are some, you wouldn't believe how many obsolete cartridges there are. Oh, people complain that why are we making all these new cartridges? We've gone crazy. This stuff has been going on since they invented the metallic cartridge.
I have a title.
What?
The 10 best
Obsolete
cartridges.
Okay, we got it rattled. That's a good one, actually, because it limits it to 10. Otherwise, it'd be 100. All righty, that's a good one. Daniel from Kentucky, and I don't think it's Daniel Boone, but they got pretty close. Hey, Ron, I just watched the Mastering Recoil podcast. You and Joseph nailed it. I especially like the part about holding the pistol grip of your rifle like you're shaking hands. One thing you didn't mention, though, was placement of the finger, usually the index finger, on the trigger. The guys that I mentor in shooting for deer hunting start out normally with the tip of their finger on the trigger bow for some unknown reason. I'll have them place their finger on the trigger at the first joint. That seems to help them control their trigger squeeze a little better. We move up in calibers, just as you described. Just for your information, taking my 338-06 to South Africa in May, my second trip. Hoping to score a kudu this time with a black wildebeest and maybe another antelope or two. Thanks, Ron. Hey, Dan. Looking forward to on that one, aren't you? 338-06 in Africa. That's a great idea. I've used the 30-06 over there and 338 Win Mag, but not the 338-06. I bet it'll work great for you. And good luck with that kudu. I was just shopping for one last year over there with Immenhof Safaris and Werner von Seidlitz, and we walked our buns off one day and saw this bull 3 times and could never get a clean shot at him. Brush, flash of horns, ran across the trail one time and just couldn't put it together. But man, what a challenge. Those things are like whitetails in an elk's body in a foreign country. They're really fun. I got to say something about your trigger finger. Now, I agree. Having that very tip of the finger ends up pushing your rifle to the side. It sort of slides off and you don't get straight pressure. The pros always say try to get a straight pullback on that trigger. You don't want to push it left or right or drag your finger across it. I find that it works best right in the center of the pad of your index finger rather than the crook. Because when you hit the bend right there and you start to pull, you put unusual bending pressure on one side of the trigger or the other. And that can be the same problem as you have with the tip of your finger. So you might want to play around with that. And anybody out there, while you're hearing these things, you want to try those for yourself. You'll figure out which one works well for you. One size does not fit all. All right, Alex in California. Ron, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart and the top of my well-stocked freezer for what you do on this fine broadcast. Well, thanks, Alex. Wonder what happened here. I wrote into the show prior to my first big game hunt, an antlerless elk hunt. You answered my question in episode 368 about bullet selection in my 270 Winchester, a Ruger M77 Tang safety. I used to have one just like that back in the 70s. I had worked up a sub-minute of angle load with a 140 grain TSX bullet and just over MOA load with a 150 grain partition. You said both were great choices, but you stated 150 grains from a 270 Winchester, and you're talking dead elk. Well, in spite of my desire to choose the most accurate bullet, I opted for the load with adequate accuracy and Ron Spomer wisdom imparted upon me. 150 grains equals dead elk. 3 days and 70,000 steps later into my 5-day hunt, there I was creeping around in the snow-covered alpine of Oregon. Plenty of elk sign and the occasional brown furry flash as my guide and I submitted mountain after mountain. The snow floated down like a lightly shaken snow globe. It flocked the spruce trees and kept the elk tracks fresh. This is sounding cool. You should write a book. Even though I am almost 10 years older than my guide, I followed him like a kid. I did all I could to keep a steady foot and to be quiet while my guide effortlessly scanned the tree line and stealthily loped ahead of me. As I crossed a clearing, I nearly tripped over my guide. He was crouched on the ground. He motioned 50 to 60 yards ahead and said, "Elk." Excitedly, my guide erected the shooting sticks and he quietly affirmed, "It's an elk. Kill the elk." I rested my rifle, took aim through my slush-drenched loophole 4 to 12 scope. A large brown stump filled the optic. As I scanned around the area, he moved toward. As I scanned around the area, all there was that I could be seen was a brown stump. I started to ponder if this was yet another stump my guide wanted me to shoot. I kept focused on the stump while my guide again whispered, "Shoot the elk." I silently questioned the kid's experience. I started to reply, "Stub," but was cut short as the very thing began to move. My heart pounded, my crosshairs moved wildly side to side. A head popped out. My eyes studied his behemoth. It came into focus. Its head was larger than a horse's. Its shoulders were broad like a woolly mammoth. My heart thundered as my crosshairs jumped from head stump to woolly rump. The guide stoked my adrenaline, whispering, "Kill the elk, squeeze the trigger." Trying to keep the animal in my scope was hard enough, let alone the thought of squeezing that trigger. I had to calm my nerves, turning my shallow breaths into deep ones, feeling cool air swirl into my lungs and warm air exit my nostrils. Finally, the crosshairs began to slow. I watched them go nose to tail, neck to ham, and then settle on that front shoulder. Bang! Adrenaline reviving, I ripped another cartridge into the gun. I frantically shouldered the gun to acquire the animal in my crosshairs. Abruptly, my guide lifted my forend and said, "It's done. It's done." I said, "It's done?" He said, "Yeah, congratulations, you did it." We walked up to the downed animal, its face not quite as long, and while woolly, it was more analogous to a large sheepdog than to the mammoth. My imagination had blown it up. The guide tells me that I'd shot a yearling. I spoke the truth to him. "It's the biggest gosh darn elk I've ever seen." Upon examination, the shot had zipped through the base of its neck. No bones were hit, and there was little blood on the ground. I surmised that the soft lead front of the partition bullet had exploded when it entered the neck at this short distance, and that the lead and the mangled jacket tore up and cut off all the veins and the arteries going to his brain, and fatally stunning and killing him. Though not the beast I set out to hunt, it was the perfect animal for my first experience. The skills and knowledge I acquired are priceless. Besides, what do they say about the small ones? They're more tender and they taste better. Ron, whether serendipitous, studied, or both, your advice, 150 grains of Winchester 270, or you're talking dead elk. Well, that held true. Thanks for being part of my adventure. Alex, wow, that was really well done, Alex. I love the way you captured the hunt. I mean, I could feel the snow coming down. I could see that snow globe effect and feel the adrenaline rush and the sloshy scope and all these things. If you've been a hunter for long, you've been there and done that. And Alex knows how to tell a story. Love it. Thanks for writing in, Alex. Ryan from Minnesota. Ron, I see plenty of rifle and cartridge reviews online, but I have not come across any that compare youth-specific models for parents looking or training upcoming hunters. I bought a Browning X-Bolt 2 Micro to see how it compared to my X-Bolt 2 SPR, and it is longer overall. I decided to set it up to my liking instead, so I bought a Henry single-shot youth model and stuck a 2.5 to 8x scope on that, and that handles amazingly by comparison. Thanks for your great info. I have learned a lot in a short amount of time as I take up hunting with my boys. Well, that's good. I don't know that we'll do a special just on comparing youth-specific models, but you're on the right track here, guys. If you are getting a young or small shooter started, you need to do some research on these different rifles. Some of them will have a youth size stock. It's mostly the length of pull that's an issue. So you'll get, say, 12.5 to maybe 13 inches length of pull. A lot of them then, like Mossberg, offers, I think, 2 or 3 spacers that you add as the student grows. But when you do that, you need to be aware of the balance. If you've got a long barrel, let's say you get a rifle with a 24-inch barrel, that thing's going to be really front heavy, and it's hard to control a rifle like that. And I don't know of anybody who offers barrel extensions, but you can certainly start with a shorter barrel that balances nicely while the student is learning. You don't want to have an unbalanced rifle right up front. And then as you add to the buttstock, you could just put some weight forward, either in the forend of the stock or even just to tape something on the barrel, just to keep that balance just in front of the trigger guard, kind of underneath the magazine well. And that will help a lot. So good points there, Ryan. And now we have Dave from Ontario again. Boy, we're hearing from a lot of Ontario folks. Good afternoon, Ron. I want to say a heartfelt thanks to you for the wealth of wisdom you share, as well as your stories from the past. I have been able to listen to many of them on your podcast. I have a question about eye dominance relating to something I've heard you mention more than once. I'm right-handed and left eye dominant. I'm fairly comfortable shooting with my left hand, left eye. I heard you say, though, that you can train your right eye, non-dominant in my case, to become dominant. Can you explain that in more detail, please? I am looking through my scope as opposed to iron sights. Will the scope, in effect, point me in the right direction? I do, by the way, shoot with both eyes open now when using my left eye. I shoot a .22 long rifle as well as a .270 Winchester and will not be out beyond 200 yards in the most common terrain. Yeah, okay, good point here, Dave, that I should explain. Now, I don't know that I said you can make your eye dominance change. That's just kind of a natural thing with each of us. Your brain is what's doing it, and it sees one eye dominant over the other. So a right eye dominant person, you can check this by holding your finger out like this and pointing it at an object across the room, like a light switch or something. And then close one eye, and if your finger is still pointing right at that object, the eye that's still open is dominant. So for me right now, it's my right eye. If I close my right eye, my finger jumps way to the right of where I was holding it right under that light switch. And I know when I was a kid playing around with this, I didn't know what it was, but I would always go, why is my finger jumping? That's parallax too, by the way. Okay, so how can you train? It's not so much training as fooling. Most people are, I think, pretty close on their dominance. They could almost go either way. Some are really strongly dominant one or the other. So what shoot trainers do, especially with shotgunners, if you're a right-handed shooter and you're left eye dominant, now you're not going to be shooting. You're going to be hitting off to the right. So they put some tape over the dominant eye or smear some Vaseline on it. And then that weakens the image, so your other eye has to take over. And that makes it dominant because it's sharper. It sees the image more strongly. The same thing happens with your rifle scope. I don't care what eye is dominant. When you throw a 2-power, 4-power, 6-power scope up there, that's the image you're going to see with your dominant eye. Even if you keep both eyes open like you're doing, which I do recommend. I commend that. Too many guys do the squinty thing, and then before you get into your scope, you're looking at your deer, and then you squint, and then you look down at your scope, and then where did he go? Where did he go? Just keep looking at the deer with both eyes open, raise your rifle, and then let that power of the scope take over, and you've got your dominant eye working for you. Make sense? That works for me, and I think it'll work for you. So, yeah, that's kind of what I was saying there. If you use your scope and you're doing all of your hunting with scopes, you really don't have to worry about the dominance. It's much more of a problem with a shotgun because there, the gun and your eye have to line up and look at the same place. That's your sight. You don't look at sights on a shotgun. You just concentrate on the target, raise the gun, and bang. You are supposed to look right where your gun points. That's why gun fit is so important in a shotgun. You have to have the right cast off on your stock and the right comb height and all the rest of it so that your eye lines up perfectly with the barrel. And then you never even look at the barrel again. You just look at that pheasant or duck or whatever it is, throw that gun up and shoot, and it should be pointing where you're looking. And that makes shotgunning a way lot easier. All right, now I think we've got our last one here from, you gotta be kidding me, is this Ontario again? It sure is. Greetings, Ron. I have a question about the 360 Remington in regards to the longer, higher BC bullets. I have heard you touch on the subject before, as well as a few other firearm-related content providers, and somewhere I had heard that the reason you can't load them with the longer bullets is magazine capacity, that they are too long to fit in the magazine. If that's the case, couldn't you solve the problem by chambering it into a long action opposed to a short? Or would that just bring to light a whole new set of problems? Well, no, you're close to it here, Adam. A couple of things you're kind of getting mixed up. Magazine capacity references how many cartridges you can shove down into the magazine. In a tubular magazine, like on a lever action, how many can you put into that tube? Most of our magazines now are vertically stacked, and you can get somewhere in the vicinity of 3 to 5, depending on how deep the magazine is and how fat the cartridges are. That's magazine capacity. What you're talking about is magazine box length. So a 308 Winchester short action, the standard box length on that is under 3 inches. It's usually 2.8. And if you have a longer bullet, you seat it out for best accuracy and all the rest of it, it turns out to be 2.9 or 3, it won't fit down in the box. You'll get the base against the back of the box, and the nose is hanging over it, and it goes in crooked and doesn't fit. So you have to seat your bullet more deeply, which isn't a huge problem unless you're a real stickler for accuracy and you've worked up a hand load that works best with that bullet seated out to make an overall length of 3 inches. Works great in your chamber and fires beautifully down your barrel, but you can't stick 5 of them down into the magazine. You could just use it as a single shot, but most of us have a magazine rifle because we want to have a few more rounds in that magazine. So that's what's going on there. Now, your suggestion for a longer action is exactly right. You can get the standard long action, standard action is a 30-06 length. 270, 280, 30-06, even the 7-rem mag, they're all that. 300 Win mag, same length. So you get one of those actions and you put a 308 in it. Now you've got a lot of extra room. I think it's 3.340 inches length in the 30-06 length cartridges. So you're going to have a good, almost a half inch more length in that box. So you can seat your bullets well out. And over the years, a lot of guys have done that to really play around with some big, long bullets in those short action cartridges. So there are a couple of options for you. All right. And that looks like it. So I think our first episode of the podcast with questions from all of you who comment on our website, Ron Spomer Outdoors, has come to a close.
We should do comment of the week.
We should do comment of the week?
On this podcast,
On this podcast.
I already have the person.
Okay, who is it?
I don't remember. Alex.
Who?
Alex.
Alex. Oh, yeah, Alex was pretty good. Alex and his snowy elk hunt story for the little Spike, I guess it was. his baby elk the size of a woolly mammoth. Yeah, we'll have to give it to him. That was a very well-written story there that kept me on the edge of my seat. So, Alex, you are our first winner of the comment of the week for Ron Spomer Outdoors podcast on the website comment section.
We'll name it something.
We'll name it something. Betsy will spend hours coming up with a name for this one. Let us know if you enjoyed this, folks, and I hope you don't, because it's going to make a whole nother day's work for me to get all this stuff done. Honest and shoot straight and keep it to yourself.